Welcome to Excel Magic Trick number 1012. Hey, if you want to download this workbook 1011 to 1012, click on the link below the video. Hey, in the last video we saw how to conditionally format the row directly below the subtotals. Here in this video we just want to talk about how do you total, but total only the subtotals. So there's the sum function, there's the sum function, there's the sum function. Now these were done manually. If you were using the subtotal feature, which I'll show you in just a moment, it's all automatic. But how would you do that, especially if you have a lot of them and you don't want to do it manually? Well, the manual way, you could use the keyboard shortcut for auto sum, Alt equals, and then if it has the cell reference you want, or you can click on the first one wherever it is. Once your cursor is there, you can hold the Control key and simply click, click. So I'm holding the Control and highlighting ranges not next to each other, just the cells with the formulas. All right, and then I could copy this over to each one of these, and it would do it. Another way, this is an old accounting trick that goes way back. If these really are subtotals, then we can simply use the sum function and highlight the entire column, including all of the subtotals. That will give us double what we need, so we divide by 2. Another way we could do this, and I'm not sure that I would use the sum divided by 2, but I guess we could use some sort of array formula. And here's a strange one. If you have Excel 2013, there's a new function, is formula. You got to be kidding me. It'll give us a true when it's a formula and a false when it's not. So I'm going to highlight all of these and just check this out. If I highlight this, normally you give that reference argument a single cell. Here I'm giving it a range of cells, more than one item, so it's going to make a function argument array operation, which means I gave it that many cells, so it's going to give me that many answers. I'm going to highlight it and hit F9, which is the evaluation key, and you can see it gives me a string of trues and falses. It's the trues that says there's the subtotal, so I'm going to Control Z. If I were to take that and multiply it by times this same range, and I'm going to highlight this again, and F9, you can see, oh, there are the subtotals. And all the zeros would go away. Now, I don't really want to do that. You could put it inside of the sum function and use Control-Shift-Enter, because this is an array formula. But we can use the sum product function. The sum product function is designed to multiply arrays, and it doesn't require Control-Shift-Enter. So if I left it like that with the multiplication, all I did is hit Enter, and there we have it. However, if you're going to use the sum product function and you have multiple arrays to multiply, you don't want to use or it's fine to use it, but there are some situations where it'll be a little bit more efficient if you actually use a comma and use the array. And I'm going to click the cursors right there, and then you use the 2 arrays and let it do the multiplying. The only problem is that sum product cannot understand trues and falses. So if I click on this array right here and hit F9, it's never going to understand those trues and falses. Control Z. But I can easily convert trues and falses to ones and zeros with a double negative. Now when I highlight that and evaluate it with F9, there's my zeros and ones. So those will be multiplied, and only when it sees a 1 will it pick up the actual subtotals there. Control Z. No, that's a silly formula. Why would you ever want to do that one when you got divide by 2? Now, another way to do this, if you actually have use the subtotal function like the subtotal feature uses, then we can use either subtotal or aggregate and tell it to ignore all of the subtotals. Now, the subtotal, if you're using it manually, the first argument says, hey, which function do you want? I'm going to say 9, comma, and then simply give it the range. All right, and then Control Enter. Now, what happens if we do subtotal? And I'm going to use subtotal. I'm going to say 9 and simply give it the reference. It is automatically programmed to ignore the subtotal function. It will not ignore the sum function. Right? So there we get our correct answer. Copy, and Control V. You could also use, I wouldn't use aggregate in this situation because subtotal is straightforward. But if for some reason you did, you'd have to then comma for the options argument. There's a bunch of great options to tell aggregate what to do. And for array formulas, there's some cool ones down here. But look at this one, ignore nested subtotal and aggregate functions. So you put a 0 there for options. And it's the reference one down here you simply highlight. And the reason you know it's the reference one is because functions 1 to 13 are the reference. The array ones are 14 to 19. So that will work also. Control C. Now, you could skip over all this hassle, and it may be that the setup doesn't allow you to use the subtotal feature. But the subtotal feature down here, so you have field names at the top. And you've sorted the column upon which you want to do your subtotals. Notice A goes to B, that's a change. And then B goes to C, that's a change. Subtotal function will automatically insert rows for you, add the subtotals, and a grand total. So I'm going to click on a single cell, go to Data, Subtotal, or Alt-DB. By default, it is only going to usually take the last one. So if you want multiple columns, you just click the ones you want to add subtotals. That means this field, and this field, I want all to have subtotals. We're going to use the sum function. And the key is the @ChangeIn. That is the field upon which you've sorted, which instructs the subtotal feature where to insert the row. So I'm going to click OK. I mean, that's just super easy, right? It automatically puts the subtotal in. But it does depend that you have a sorted. And check this out. Even this grand total uses the fact that the subtotal function will ignore the other subtotal functions in that reference. All right, that's a bunch about automatically adding up all of the subtotals, whether manually with some formulas, or using the subtotal feature in a manually created budget, or over in the subtotal feature. All right, see you next video.